How do you read into the view that President Trump is holding on the dollar, given the stance the Fed has taken, and that is essentially to be in pause mode?
Right. I think that Trump actually has been a bit premature in his criticisms of Powell. I think everything that Powell has done recently has been very good. I think hiking the rates was the right move. You have to put yourself in Powell's position, not in Trump's position. And when Trump ran for election, he ran on the premise that there was going to be a strong infrastructure, there was going to be a cut in taxes, two things that are very inflationary for the U.S. economy. So if I was Powell and I was sitting in Powell's seat, the first thing I would have done was started to hike rates.
But we're not likely to see that come through, given the resistance there is from the president himself. What are you factoring in? I think the market is working with the assumption that from 2 rate hikes, it would trim down to 1 possibly for the rest of the year?
Right. So the other side of this whole argument is that when Trump was elected and he spoke about stimulus and he spoke about tax cuts, he also had the Senate and the Congress in his back pocket, essentially. Now Congress is Democratic and it's not Republican. So infrastructure is really sort of off the table, unless there's some sort of bipartisan agreement, which I would find very difficult. So he's doing the natural thing, which is to look externally into the international arena. And that's why we're talking about free trade agreements. That's why we're talking about reduction in tariffs. And so I think that he's obviously taken that road to further his campaign. And, you know, let's not forget, politics are not aside here because the election is coming up the next year and a half, and the Democrats have already thrown quite a few names in the ring.
And Jeohn, going back to talk about the greenback, last year was a very strong year for the U.S. currency. It was actually one of the only asset classes that performed well. U.S. dollar, I mean, was up about 6% by the end of the year. This year, it's traded a little bit sideways, despite the fact that many people are actually turning quite bearish on the U.S. dollar because the Fed are trailing back when it comes dialing back some of their rate hiking guidance, that they're turning more dovish. You've also got, you know, the massive deficit blowout, U.S. economy slowing a little bit. Do you see any reason at all to be bullish the U.S. dollar here?
I think bullish is a strong word. I think being in a bit of a range bound here would probably be a better word for it. As we said, you know, going back to the beginning of this thing, the infrastructure part that came off the table when the Democrats won the Congress really put a stymie in Trump's plans, and to that degree also put a stymie in Powell's plans as well. Powell was there to hike rates to get ahead of any sort of inflationary expectations. Now the heat is basically off. He doesn't really need to hike for those purposes. But I think where we are in the market, so a 2.5% Fed, is fairly close to where we should be. I personally think that we could potentially hike one more time by the end of this year. I think the economy could weather it fine. But really, now we're talking about what's going to happen with China, what's going to happen with Brexit, what's going to happen internationally, and how is that going to impact the domestic economy.
Hi, I'm Emily Tan, and thanks for watching CNBC. You can check out more of our videos by clicking on the boxes on the screen, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more. Thanks for watching.